This summer, Plymouth's Whale and Dolphin Conservation held a whale and shark expedition out of Hyannis. PCN was invited along aboard ship with marine experts such as Regina Asmutis Silvia, who's the senior biologist and executive director for Whale and Dolphins Conservation's North American office, John Chisholm with the Massachusetts Division of Marine Fisheries, and field naturalist and birder Peter Trull for an incredible day right off the Massachusetts coast.
Expedition 2014 in search of white sharks, whales, and birds to benefit the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy and Whale and Dolphin Conservation.
Going around and down. I'm going around the race right now.
This is the first time anybody's done a trip like this, and so we're very excited to be a part of it, and we also had a lot of great interest for this trip as well. We did sell out all the available tickets that we had, and so we're hoping that this trip will actually be an annual trip that we can put on year after year.
So this is our first year partnering with the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy for this expedition, Great White Sharks and Whales. And we did this for two reasons. The first was to build awareness for both of our organizations, and the second is as a fundraiser. As a marine conservation organization, we rely heavily on donations, and this was one way both to bring awareness to the work that we do, as well as to raise some money.
So see how much bigger, even that breath, it's a much bigger breath. The calves can't hold their breath as long as the moms can. Their lungs are still quite a bit smaller, so they can't hold as much air.
So Whale and Dolphin Conservation is a global organization, and many people don't realize that our North American headquarters are here in Plymouth, Mass. So for an international organization to have such a small hometown office is unusual, and that's part of the reason why we did this trip, is so people would know that we were here.
There's the flipper again. We do just call that flipper slapping, because that's exactly what it's doing. It's slapping that flipper on the surface. So this whale's kind of on its side right now, rolling over a little bit. All right, both whales side by side now. So far on this trip, we've seen two different types of large whales, baleen whales. We've had a number of humpback whales that we've seen, and also a couple of finback whales, which are the largest animal on the planet. So it's always really interesting and very neat when we get to see them, especially up close. Two of the humpback whales that we saw so far on this trip have had calves or babies with them. So that's always really neat to see as well, to have the mothers teaching their calves everything that they need to know to survive. And we're able to see that right off of our coast. And we had two of them, not just one, but we had two, and so that was a really neat sighting. And one of those mothers with her calf, it was the first time this year that we've seen them up in this area, so it was actually a really important sighting for us to have, to be able to track their condition and how they're doing. Look for a tail.
Really, the number one question we get from people is how many sharks are there, and we don't know. So that's why we're starting this study, to try to identify as many as individuals and also tag any sharks that we can. We're not so much focused on tagging as we have been in the past, but we will, if we have the opportunity, put some tags out, and then that allows us to track the sharks while they're here and also when they leave here. A lot of people are surprised that, you know, there was a white shark in Cape Cod Bay, but the fact is, historically, white sharks have always been part of Massachusetts fauna. Going back to colonial days, there's been white sharks documented in Cape Cod Bay. There's been white sharks in Buzzards Bay. You know, they've been here, and I think what we're seeing now is their food source, which had been basically exterminated from this area, is now back. And they've discovered their seals back, so they're coming, doing what they do. They eat seals, and so we're seeing more of them because we're seeing the growing seal numbers. But they're not just here for seals. A lot of people don't realize they eat other things too, and they even eat spiny dogfish. So it's not unheard of for them to be in Cape Cod Bay, Massachusetts Bay, all the way up. We got sharks that we've tagged that go all the way up to Newfoundland, Canada, all the way south down into the Gulf of Mexico.
They usually have a turf next to us here, right along the boat, on the left side.
Oh, right next to us here.
right next to us on the other side, 10 o'clock.